What's up, kid folk? Welcome to Adapt and Respond with me, RJ Young. If you are new to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button, liking this video, and answer questions in the comments below. What is your biggest beef with the initial college football playoff selection committee's rankings? I am taking your calls. As much as we can, expect y'all to say something worthwhile, because I'll be looking at your comments sometimes. Sometimes it don't make much sense. Sometimes you write impassioned arguments that I would very much like to see. And you know what? We will do a little bit better of a job, I think, in the future of elevating to the masses so they can see if I agree with you or I don't even need to agree with you. If I think you made a good argument, period, we'll feature it. But for now, let's start with what I think, right? And at the top, you're not going to have much truck with this. This is how I would expect a good and proper college football playoff selection committee to rank the first 5 teams in this playoff. Like, I just don't see another way of doing it here. And I think they got that right. And I made the VOD about this. That is the instant reaction to the playoff rankings. You can go watch it some later date. Number 1, Ohio State, easy for me. It's very simple, right? Ohio State has not lost a football game since they played Michigan last year. And yes, that game is on the schedule once again. If you have never lived a day on earth and are a new college football fan, one of those two things, right? Because that's the only way you get here without knowing that Ohio State and Michigan are going to play. Oh, excuse me, unless Michigan catches COVID in a season where they finished 2-4 and Jim Harbaugh was likely going to get fired and was made to eat a very embarrassing contract. But you know what? Neither here nor there, right? Because if you're a Michigan fan, it's like, yo, we won this game 4 times in a row. What's number 5? Might need to be that, dog. Might need to be that for y'all to get into the college football playoff, because a 9-win Michigan team with that on their resume probably backdoors into a spot that Alabama would have had last year if SMU was not ranked where it was by the selection committee. And that's how the selection committee lost its privilege to eat at the big kids table. Okay? What had happened was they decided to act all out of pocket and put SMU in a spot that Greg Sankey's like, yo, that's for Alabama. Like, that's for Alabama. And they're like, hey, Greg, we just think that SMU is a better football team. They didn't lose any games in ACC regular season play. The only game they lost is out of conference. Then they lost the conference championship in a game that they led by double digits, but we don't really matter because, we don't think that really matters because Clemson was good. To which Greg Sankey's like, 9. So now we got a 12-team seeded playoff that looks like what we're going to have, in which case Greg Sankey probably opened the door not for another SEC team, but for a Big Ten team, which is, I think, funny as hell. But again, it's Ohio State above Indiana. Indiana's like, yo, we got the best win in college football. We went to Autzen and we beat Oregon by double digits. That's the best win. And that makes us the best team. And if you want to take it on a, common opponents metric, we stumped a mud hole and walked dry Illinois. We beat them by a historically large margin. All Ohio State did was beat them by 18. Again, good points, right? That's a very good point. But if you're Ohio State, you're probably over here looking like Ric Flair talking about it's so hard for me to sit back here in this studio listening to a guy out here hollering my name when last year I spent more money on spilt liquor in bars all over this country than you made. You talking to the Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, limousine riding, jet flying, son of a gun. And I'm having a hard time holding these alligators down. That's Ric Flair, who also said, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And Ohio State's the man. What I think is really important about all of this is neither one of these teams has won a conference champion or has not won a conference championship since 2020. That's what I want to see. I want to see Ohio State and Indiana play for a conference championship. And if that is what happens, that'll be fun. To which I'm already going to lay out this one. If I see an asinine comment like this, I'm going to warn you about it. Okay? You're going to get an upside down smiley face. Doesn't mean anything going to happen. But it just means, don't think about it. If you come in here with something like this, I've already warned you. This is your one, okay? Yo, if Indiana and Ohio State are both undefeated, why don't they just play the second stringers so they can save them for the college football playoff to come? Why would you risk playing the first stringers for injury or fatigue in a conference championship? Fool, if you don't sit down somewhere Matter of fact, why do we play football?
You play to win the game.
One more time, Herm. Why do we play football?
You play to win the game.
I don't understand, y'all, that want someone to lay down in a game for a championship because they want to play for the next championship. Here's what you do. Let me tell you, make it smooth. Let me make smooth. What you do is win the Big Ten championship and the national championship. That's what you do. Well, wouldn't you be sacrificing, for the greater good? The greater good? What greater good? Go get the belt. Hold the belt up. Look, man, you might be the person that needs to see that you are the WWF World Heavyweight Champion of the world. Yeah, I'm that old. But if you get to raise the Intercontinental, or you get to raise the European, or you get to raise the U.S., you do that. There's nothing wrong with collecting all the belts. Nothing. Ask my man Bud Crawford if there's anything wrong with collecting all the belts. You know how I knew that Marvel had done a good thing with Infinity War and Endgame? Because I was rooting for Thanos. I wanted him to get all of them stones, all them gems in the gauntlet. You get them all. That's what you do. Football is about winning. Winning to become about playing for what's next. My goodness, man. Everybody should want to be the Miami Dolphins, the 71 Miami Dolphins. Everybody. All the time. Well, if you got the loss or you can accept the loss, you can't accept no losing. We don't do that around here. No, that's not what we do. Meanwhile, we got A&M at number 3. And I think A&M's got a really good argument for being number 1. But that 41-40 win against Notre Dame doesn't look as good as I thought it was going to be, mostly because Notre Dame, lost to Miami. And that is also something else we need to discuss. But A&M's got a Missouri team they need to beat up. And then later on in the season, they got a Texas they got to beat up. And then if they're undefeated and Alabama continues to do what Alabama's doing, they'll meet up in the SEC championship game, in which case I would expect the 2 best teams in the SEC, the 2 best teams in the Big Ten, to be your top 4 seeded programs, right? Georgia and Ole Miss are waiting on somebody to backdoor. But Georgia is ahead of Ole Miss as Georgia's got the head-to-head with Ole Miss. That's how that works. That's how that's supposed to work. One loss team. They played each other. Who got the loss? Okay, cool. Nothing to really argue about there. And then we get to BYU and Texas Tech, the first 2 Big 12 teams of 4 Big 12 teams in this ranking. The question is whether or not they're going to get 2 teams in to the college football playoff this year, because the same trick that Greg Sankey wants to pull with Alabama and SMU last year is not going to work for the Big 12 this year, because we just don't believe it's that good, even though I think it's the most competitive league in college football. I mean, look at what West Virginia was able to do just last week, and now look at what Colorado was able to do to Iowa State. All up and down. Everybody can get it. Anybody can get it. But they're going to play each other on Saturday, and BYU's undefeated. Texas Tech can't afford another loss. I get to find out if the dude wearing 47 got more Michael Irvin in him than he has led us to believe so far, because 47 is just a wild number to be playing quarterback with, even if you're a true freshman. I mean, but if he balling until he ain't, because, Devin tried to come out with with that 33 on. It ain't work. Devin Brown. It ain't work. Then you get to Oregon at number 9. I understand. Many of you have a really great point. And I will cede the point that Oregon's record is not indicative of a team that has played a bunch of good teams, because Penn State is bad. Not just not good, it's bad. So now you need to go into double overtime against a bad Penn State team. That's not a good look. It means the only team that they've beaten so far on their schedule with a winning record is Northwestern. Everybody else has been garbage, to use that French term. I just don't see it for them, right? But if they win out, they could do what Indiana did last year, which is make themselves a first-round playoff team and go from there, which is entirely within reach. And you know what? They might have to do it the hard way. They got a game against Washington and USC, among others. Both of those teams are ranked in this top 25 and in my top 25 for that matter. And then we get to Notre Dame, and then we get into some nitty-gritty. Before we get into some nitty-gritty with Notre Dame, with what happens behind them and this whole kerfuffle about what this committee actually enjoys, let me tell you, it ain't winning. I do want to take a moment to talk about our new presenting sponsor to Adapt and Respond. Very excited about this one. Check this out. I live in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where the BOK Center is really good at getting some of the best acts in the world to come to Tulsa, Oklahoma and perform. As a matter of fact, I remember going to see Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band on a Tuesday night for $7 because, well, I don't know that they understood just where they were. Or I've seen Cat Williams at BOK. Or I am fortunate to say that I got to see Garth Brooks at the BOK. And I've seen Jason Isbell several friggin' times at the BOK and at the Canes here locally. But I was kind of taken aback when I was asked, yo, what you think about that Billie Eilish? And not by the person that you might think, which I will get to. But it also gave me a great opportunity to talk about our new sponsor to Adapt and Respond, and that is SeatGeek. Whoa, almost knocked over my tripod there. So SeatGeek, which I'm going to use here, SeatGeek has over 35 million downloads, the #1 rated ticketing app in the entire app store. And right, like, dude, one of the things I enjoy most is looking for things to go do and see, especially in and around college football. And while you might use it to go, say, see Ohio State, Michigan, or perhaps LSU and Oklahoma, I'm going to use it to make my goddaughters happy. So check this out right quick. If you use, your phone here and you open SeatGeek, I set it to Tulsa, Oklahoma because that's where I live, and I could go look at, say, Billie Eilish and see what the tickets are like and scroll through, see what the choices are for a Tuesday, November 11th. But you know what? I got way ahead of it because in this part of the, segment, I'd already done the ticketing and the tracking. So I could see I've already got tickets that are ready to go for my goddaughters and their mom to go see Billie Eilish at the BOK. And it'll be their first time to see it. They are big Billie fans. They're big Taylor Swift fans. And I like to make my goddaughters happy. So this is the kind of thing that I'm going to do. And I hope you will take advantage of this opportunity to do that as well. Every ticket has a buyer guarantee, so SeatGeek has your back there, which I really, really love. But the thing that you can do, and one of the reasons that I was excited to partner with SeatGeek in the month of November is you can use a code. I didn't use a code because I felt like this bad practice, but you can use a code if you download SeatGeek. Use ADAPT10, that's all caps, ADAPT10 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. So perhaps you're looking for tickets to go see, again, Ohio State, Michigan, or LSU and Oklahoma. And that's 10% off any tickets, though. So if you're like me and your goddaughters could absolutely not care at all about college football, but care intensely about Billie Eilish, this works for you, right? So 10% off any tickets with the promo code ADAPT10. That is all caps, ADAPT10, all one word. It is in the description below, along with a link where you can download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. Again, we're talking about ADAPT10 for 10% off of your tickets on SeatGeek. So now that I understand what the committee is looking for, and it ain't winning, I kind of sort of got an understanding for just what it is that the committee wants to see the rest of the way. It ain't anything that I agree with, or you agree with, I would think, for that matter, because if you're the kind of person, if you're the kind of fan that needs to situate your team by talking about how closely they paid somebody else in a loss, I gotta ask other questions about you. I gotta ask other questions about, is that really your girl? Or did you rent her for the night? I got to ask, is that really your car? Or do you have to return it by, Sunday tomorrow because you got it from the Enterprise? I got to ask about your hair. Did you dye it? I got to ask about her weave. I got to ask other questions now because I can't trust you to go for the gold. I can't trust you to do anything but bring me what's fake. And what's fake is gassing up a loss. But that seems to be exactly what this committee is doing when we look at their rankings. So at number 10, we have Notre Dame. They have the loss to A&M, 1 point at home. And they got the loss to Miami, which no longer looks any good, but we'll get to that. Now behind them, you've got Texas. Okay, that's all right. With the head-to-head win against number 12, Oklahoma. Okay, that's all right too. Oklahoma, who's got top 25 wins against Michigan. And yes, against Tennessee now. I didn't expect Tennessee to be a top 25 win, but that's what this committee did when it decided to include them. Spoiler, they're at 25. And then you get to Utah at 13, and I start going, okay, well, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but if that's where you need them to be to satisfy your rankings, we'll go with that. Is apparently beating up on Cincinnati and Colorado means something. Cincinnati, I kind of get. Colorado, not so much. I never thought that Colorado would be the kind of team you could make your top 25 bones off of when they got, losses like they got losses. Colorado's defense has given up 105 points the past 2 games, and all the yards in the world to a fella from Muskogee, Oklahoma by the name of Bird Fickley. You're going to get used to seeing him. And then number 14, Virginia, which feels a lot like a paper 14 because they really needed to work very hard to stay right where they are. They've got some overtime wins that I don't think they should have gotten. And, they beat up on a Florida State team that at one point everybody thought was good, but it's nowhere near the top 25 now. And it feels like all Florida State is doing is waiting on getting enough of the $7,800 million that they need to fire Mike Norvell and the staff and hit the reset button once again after re-upping with that man and letting him run it back with new coordinators and new staff. Just didn't work. Number 16, Vanderbilt. Okay, I get that. Alabama, it's a loss, right? Don't want it, but it's a loss to a team that's undefeated in conference play. And Texas, a team you just let get too far out in front of you, and you couldn't quite reel them back in. Texas has been playing with fire since beating up on Oklahoma, and I feel like none of that gets talked about. Texas' best football game is either the loss to Ohio State, if you some sort of a herb, or the win to Oklahoma, which is the one that I would think, right? You beat Oklahoma by 17. You get to wave sayonara as you slide down after a big rushing game in your arch manning. I expect you to stomp out Kentucky. I expect you to stomp out Mississippi State. I expect you to handily beat Vanderbilt. None of those things happen. But Vanderbilt is still right here. Just that head-to-head with Texas is going to hurt them if it comes time to try to get somebody in the college football playoff. Now, Georgia Tech, 17. Yo, dog. That's a really bad loss to NC State. And NC State ain't no good. They 5-4. They're not any good. And Pitt just stomped a mud hole in NC State and walked dry. So now we can't even trust the top of the ACC, which has got Virginia and Georgia Tech there. And then there's still one more team that you got to consider. Then we get to Miami, who's at 18. There is a fan, I'm sure, that asked this question. If both Miami and Notre Dame each have 2 losses, but Miami beat Notre Dame to hand them one of those 2 losses, how come Miami is not ranked above Notre Dame? To which I would say, have you ever heard about the quality loss? Because that's what we're talking about. This committee, and I don't think the sport in general, values winning enough. We don't value winning. I know this because if you're Miami and you beat Notre Dame, it should matter more than losing to SMU and losing to Louisville. But because Notre Dame's got good losses, quality losses to A&M and Miami, we're going to rank them at 10 and we're going to rank Miami at 18. That doesn't make much sense to me. I expect if I beat you to be ranked ahead of you. We got the same amount of losses. I don't give a damn if I lost to, Bixby's a top 20 high school football team. Who do I want to pick on tonight? I'll pick up Bishop Kelly because they gave us Owen Heineke at Oklahoma, who's had a SEC Defensive Player of the Year. If I lost to Bishop Kelly, right, and I lost to, I'll pick on a smaller school, Cashin, covered a few games there. I don't care if I beat Oklahoma. I should be the best team. Like, that's just what it is. If I beat you head-to-head, it should matter. It doesn't matter to this committee. I will never understand that. I won't. If I got to do this again and I get it wrong, then I'll get it wrong. But my goodness, man. SC at number 19. Okay, sure. Whatever. The Trojans are pretty topsy-turvy, I think is the word. Like, I don't know if they're coming or going because Jane Maeva has the ability to not just play great football, but to not throw the interceptions that Miller Moss did, which makes them better. They're down to their 3rd-string running back in King Miller, but that's okay because he's playing really well. The defense was not great against Nebraska, but it ain't been great all year. And yet, and still, here they are still in the mix, and that's what you want. Iowa, 20. Okay. This is the biggest argument for the quality loss that this committee seems to love. I didn't rank Iowa. The AP didn't rank Iowa. Iowa's got to play Oregon this weekend, so they get to prove this or not. But the only reason I think you would put Iowa in the top 20 let alone the top 25, is they played Indiana closely. That's it. They had Indiana on the ropes. It Kinnick. That's it. Indiana got actually, blitzed. And Fernando Mendoza couldn't get the ball out quick enough. So they had to show for this. That's what happened. That's how this went. That's how this happened. That's how this went down. I tend to think in terms of, yeah, man, I wouldn't do this, but that's the only way I can make this work for me, is they played Indiana well. And I still think if you lost, you lost. I'm not going to count it as a good loss. I don't think there is a good loss. There's things you learn from. You learn from losing. You learn from failure. But you don't rank teams based on it. It's still stupid. And that's one reason you open yourself up to these things, among other things, along with the G6 just not being represented. Then you have Michigan at number 21. I'm fine with that. Their losses are to USC and Oklahoma, both on the road. Missouri plays A&M on Saturday. They don't have a signature win. They could get one. They've got losses to Alabama, Vanderbilt. Those aren't bad. Pitt at 24. Pitt can mess up the sauce for some of these teams because Pitt already stomped a mud hole in NC State, but it's going to have to prove it. I even believe they got Notre Dame on their schedule the rest of the way. And let me go check this out so that I know that I'm right about this, because I'm very interested in the Pitt part of the ACC, because I think the Pitt part of the ACC is the one that I trust the least, given that I hyped them after going 7-0 last year, or 6-0 last year, and then they were 7-0, and then they, went and lost the next 6 games in a row. So you don't know. They got a bye week, and then they get Notre Dame. Ooh, yeah. And then they get Georgia Tech. Oh, no. And then they get Miami. Yeah. Pitt could find itself a top 10 team. Easy. And the ACC champ. Maybe even higher, right? It could be like that. As they play musical chairs at quarterback and they keep landing on guys that can spin it. Just outstanding what Pat Narduzzi has done there. And I keep running into Pitt fans that just don't know that they're good. It's one of the wildest things, because Pitt is historically like a really great college football program, like massively great. They won a national championship. They've had a Heisman Trophy winner. Everybody wants to start with Dan Marino when they start talking about him, but the guy you should start talking about is Aaron Donald, and then Larry Fitzgerald, and then Antonio Bryant, and then Darrelle Revis. Like, I keep going, they're stacked. They're stacked. And yet, Pitt fans are like, are the Steelers playing? Anyway, the Panthers could very well make the college football playoff with what they got left, if all they got to do is go win the games that are in front of them. And then Tennessee at 25. This felt like a spot for you to put Memphis or North Texas or James Madison. I don't understand this one. You know that Tennessee can't make the college football playoff as a 3-loss team. Not with this strength of record. They don't have a top 25 win. All they got is top 25 losses. So you're telling me that those 3 top 25 losses are worth more to you than Memphis being 8-1, than Navy being 7-1, than North Texas being 8-1. I don't agree, man. James Madison undefeated in Sun Belt. 1-loss team. Their losses to Louisville. You could put any one of those teams in there, but you didn't, because it feels cowardly. It feels cowardly because there are hundreds of thousands of G6 fans that want to know which one of these teams would rank. And what now the committee gets to lean on is, if they don't have a team in their top 25 come Selection Sunday, they just get to pick the best team without giving us any read about what that team could look like or who that team might be. And then they get to bounce. So they get to invite all the fury and leave the country. Like, that's what they get to do. It's going to say, bye-bye, we're gone now that we picked your G6 winner. And, oh, by the way, put them in a spot where we might otherwise put a Power 4 program. This is another reason why I would like to see, a 2014 playoff. I really would. Everybody that should be in, get in. Well, we're going to have 8 and 4 teams get in. Yeah, we got 7 and 9 teams get in the NFL. We got, dog, you can be, 4 and 3, 3 and 4 in high school district and make the state tournament. This is not a new concept, right? Losing should not preclude you from making the playoff. But if you are going to do a 12 team, it has to at some point. And a 24 team, all you got to do is be in the top 4. Top 4 of your conference. And that could be 8 and 4. It could be 9 and 3. And it doesn't devalue your regular season, because each one of these games is going to matter in a different way. What it does is make it hard for you to put Mercer on your schedule if you're Georgia, or Southeastern Louisiana on your LSU schedule. That's what it's going to make it harder to do. But as we continue to talk about these teams and what they're going to be like, I invite you to continue to think about college football the way that I and Mike Singletary did.
I want winners.
That's it. As you were. That's going to do it for this live episode of Adapt and Respond. If you like the show, let me know in the comments below, and I will see y'all on the flip side. Doses.